Hello and welcome to Rusted Junk. Yes, it's Lucky Dip time again. This time, it's the turn of Dom the Don, who is going to introduce
Dom the Don.
Dom the Don. Dom
Papa
da
Don.
There, see,
a man of many names and few talents. That's me. Yeah,
but you have a talent for picking a good film, which we'll get to. What film are we doing?
Well, tonight, everyone, we are doing Predator, the 1987 science fiction action film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jesse Ventura, lots of other cast members we'll cover in roll call.
Woohoo!
Cool. Here's a trailer.
We are a rescue team, not assassins. Now, what do we gotta do?
In a part of the world where there are no rules.
We pick up their trail at the chopper, run them down, grab those hostages before anybody knows we were there. What do you mean we?
Deep in the jungle, where nothing that lives is safe.
You lose it here, you're in a world of hurt.
Showtime, kid. Knock, knock.
An elite rescue squad
You're bleeding, man. I ain't got time to bleed.
is being led by the ultimate warrior.
We need the best. That's why you're here.
But now,
What's got Billy so spooked?
there's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man. They're up against the ultimate enemy.
Holy Mother God.
Nothing like it has ever been on Earth before.
She says the jungle just came alive and took him.
We cannot see it.
No blood, no bodies. We hit nothing.
But it sees the heat of our bodies and the heat of our fear.
Whatever it is out there, it killed Hopper. And now it wants us.
It kills for pleasure.
He was skinned alive!
It hunts for sport.
He's killing us one at a time.
We're all gonna die.
But this time, it's picked the wrong man to hunt.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Century Fox presents Arnold Schwarzenegger. Predator. The hunt begins Friday, June 12th at theaters everywhere.
Okay, so was that trailer the whole film?
I think
I swear that music's Lethal Weapon. Anybody wanna? It feels Lethal Weapon-ish.
It does.
Yeah, but it's
I
not.
don't think that's the official trailer. That went on far too long.
That was too spoilery for sure.
Yeah. It literally
I mean,
followed the whole film.
I was like, are they going to reveal the Predator? Because we had never really seen the Predator when
No.
the movie had first come out. Like it wasn't in posters, it wasn't in
No.
TV ads.
It was
So,
just Arnie, wasn't it?
I don't recall that trailer at all.
Now, I would say I don't recall the trailer, but we picked it now, and that's a trailer. Somebody made that, and it was shown somewhere. This isn't a 1987 film for us. This is a 1988 film because it's released on New Year's Day, 1988.
Mm.
So it's only just not 1987. I remember seeing something better than that, mind you. Schwarzenegger could have made like a puppet show at that time, and I would have gone to see it. So it's just that'd be good, Schwarzenegger puppet show. But
So are you saying it's a 1988 film or a 1987?
well, it's a 1987 film. If it gets released in the US, then
Yeah, for me, it was an
87
87
then.
film.
it is 87. Yeah, but all right, okay. Anyway, let's
but
not
no,
get bogged
but-
down in years. Let's get to the. So who goes first on scores?
Oh, spin the roulette.
Shall I
wheel.
go? Joe, I never go first. Shall I go first?
Go on then. Yeah.
And I think Dom, is it how we do it? Dom goes last because it's his film, or
Yeah.
yeah, right, okay. Right, coming out the gates. I know I'm going to be alone on this one, and I really don't care. Previous listeners of the podcast would know what I would have said this, because when we were going through great films and what you give them, then I did say that I would give this film a 10, and it is a 10. There's very little wrong with it. It's the sheer definition of an action and sci-fi mix-up. Those kind of things weren't, aliens aside, weren't really being done to that sort of effect. You get the biggest action star, arguably at the time, in there. Everybody gels together, gives a good performance. You've got a good reveal. You've got this unknown assassin. Yes, the special effects are a bit dodgy, but they're 80s special effects, so they're pretty good for the 80s. Yeah, they're pretty good for the 80s. It's perfect. It's 10. I do have minor niggles, but nothing that would take away, nothing that would knock it down to a 9. So that's me. Joe?
So I never saw this in theaters back in
Oh.
87.
Okay.
In fact, I saw Predator 2 before I saw Predator.
Did you?
Yes.
That must have been slightly confusing.
Because I had no interest in seeing it for some reason. I just really wasn't into the trailers or the advertisements. And in fact, I saw Predator for the first time last year. And I watched it again last night. So when I watched it last year, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I would have given it like a 6 out of 10. But I watched it again and I enjoyed it a lot more this time around. And, it went up slightly. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. But it's basically, it's Rambo meets Jaws in the jungle, as far as I'm concerned.
You just described a perfect movie, Joe. That sounds great.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah, that's why you gave it a 10. But we'll get into it. But it's definitely it's different. The acting is all over the place at times.
Ooh.
That's why I don't see how you can give it a 10. But you're Charlie and I'm not.
That is true. Right, blimey, Manda.
Oh, I'm going to go straight in.
Sorry,
I'm going to give it a 9.
A 9.
Yes.
Oh my! Wow.
Yes. I was honestly
heard
thinking
that.
a 7.
It's so high. Look, Dom's left the room.
He's crikey. He's
in
walked
shock.
off in disgust, and it's like,
Disgust.
He didn't want it. He didn't want us to see him cry.
oh,
My printer was making a lot of noise on slightly less exciting
Okay.
notes. Just switched it
9.
off.
Come on, tell us about the 9.
9 for me. I have watched this movie before, and I remember being scared witless when I watched it the first time. I think it's the music. It's because it's like, I don't know. It's a bit. It's quite. I don't know how to describe it. Suspenseful, but kind of like in your face a little bit. But it's not like orchestra. It's a lot of like percussion stuff, isn't it? And like tapping and different things. Anyway, I won't go into the music a bit, but yeah, I was really scared, and I got the same sort of like, not to the same degree, but I was still a bit kind of like in suspense because I didn't know when this thing was going to appear again. I couldn't remember, but it's actually not. It's actually quite far into the movie, isn't it, when you first see it? So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good 80s kind of macho action thriller suspense kind of film. And yeah, some of the acting was a little bit dodge, but it's fine. They don't hang around for that long, do they? All of them.
Wow. Right
It did turn out to be a bit of an Arnie fest at the end, didn't it?
Indeed. But anyway, over to the selector, as we'll call you, because it is your choice.
Yeah, wow,
Dom.
some revelations in this pod already. Then, so Joe, you've seen it twice. The first time being last year. That's pretty mind blowing. And Amanda, your comments about the score and the musical settings and things, I hadn't called that out as being what would have kept you on edge. But what have we got? A 7, a 9, and a 10 so far. Well, I'm going to give it the royal flush or the flush anyway. I'm not a strong poker player, but I'm giving it an 8 anyway.
Oh,
so I think
cool.
it's
Okay.
I think it's an excellent 80s action film with some absolutely memorable scenes and some all-time classic dialogue. I mean, we'll get into it. Some of the lines are just fantastic. First time you hear them, and they were used in playgrounds in the UK, or where I went to school at least, for years and years afterwards. I thought the casting deserves some real credit. Obviously Arnie, and Carl. What others the big stars, but I thought the rest of the cast carried it off really well. But as I was watching it with a more critical eye, normally it's the sort of film where you just switch off and enjoy. Trying to put a review together for this pod, it did occur to me a little bit like the Full Metal Jacket episode you did recently. It's a film of distinct parts, and you've got a brilliant beginning to the film, I think, with the getting together and the landing and the assault on the camp, and then you got a really good ending, I think, with Arnie and his kind of one-to-one battle with the monster, and then the little bit that gets you between those two parts, the pivots between them, I thought was slightly more lackluster. So yeah, for me, an excellent, enjoyable, great 80s action film, 8 out of 10.
Wow. 7, 8, 9, 10. Well,
someone put me out of my misery. Is that a flush or is that a run? I don't know. But...
No idea. Don't play.
We need one more card for it to be a flush.
Okay.
Oh, not a flush, a strrait.
Straight. That's it. Well, I should have got that then, shouldn't I?
Before we go on and possibly go into roll call, before we go into the film, I have to let the listeners know how I first watched this film. So I've got to admit to some illegal activity at this point, because when I was at public school, there was a video recorder in the school, and there was a kid who was kind of rich. His dad was kind of like Flash, and he had a Panasonic, a very top of the range Panasonic video recorder. And he used to bring them in, and we used to record the videos. We used to put the one that we rented from the shop in, and in the classroom, when it wasn't being used, we recorded and copied all of these VHS tapes, which was great at the time. But one of the guys who was an overseas student came with a copy of Predator. And when he never told us where he got it from, but it was VHS quality. It was, it wasn't like fuzzy, it wasn't out of blurred, it wasn't filmed in a cinema. It was a proper copy of the VHS. And we pirated the heck out of that and made a small fortune by doing that. That's the first time I saw Predator, then caught up when it came into the cinema. This was 5 months before it was released over here. And it's always one of those mysteries where he got it from. I have no idea. But yeah, that's where I first saw Predator. And I started pirating videos.
Not only are you going straight to hell for that one, but you just confessed of doing a crime.
Yes.
Which, if I'm not, according to my FBI warning that I have over in the United States, that's $250,000 per copy, but that doesn't include also the time you're going to spend in a penitentiary, Charlie.
Well, see, about it is there's no evidence of that anymore. I could have just fabricated the whole thing just for effect, but I'll let the viewers decide.
I've seen his American jail films as well, Charlie. They trade you like currency in the yard as well. So
yeah,
maybe in my prime. Yeah, maybe in my prime.
You definitely better lose that accent, Charlie, if you come to an American jail.
I'll just do Dick Van Dyke. All right, governors, how are you doing? Right. Well, on that note, before we get into it, should we go into roll call?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Dom, do you want to introduce it? Because you're doing roll call. Go for it.
Here's roll call.
Roll call.
That'll work.
That's a ticket.
We need a new jingle. Right. Well, who are you going to start with? It's your show. We are mere passengers on the roll call train.
There's only one place to start, really, isn't there? This is an Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle, and so let's start with the main man himself, Arnie, Dutch, as he is in this film. So, yeah, the what a life Arnold Schwarzenegger had, and this, I guess, was in his kind of prime, really, wasn't it? This is
he was looking kind of buff.
He was looking kind of bluff, yeah.
Buff.
Buff, yeah, absolutely, yeah. His yeah. I mean, he's solid, isn't he? He's believable. And I'm going to come out on a limb and say, despite scoring this an 8 out of 10, this isn't in my top 3 Arnie films of all time. But but that's a reflection of some of the classic films that he made. Yeah, my personal top 3 Arnie.
Okay, I think I could guess them, but
go on then.
Can I write them down on a bit of paper? And then okay, no, I'll be honest. Right, okay, go on.
I've got one.
Go for
I've
it.
got two. I can't think of a third.
Twins.
No.
Okay, well, no, that's not on anyone's top 10, I think. But okay.
Not only action all the way. No, Kindergarten Cop. None of those are on the top three.
I would have put that in.
Total Recall.
That's number two. Two of my
Okay.
list.
Yeah.
Oh, this is like Family Feud or Family Fortunes. True Lies.
Nope. Jamie Lee
What?
Curtis. She, for her perhaps, but no, not.
Terminator 2, of course.
Yeah, that's number one. Yeah, Terminator 2, Total Recall.
Commando.
Terminator.
No, not Commando. No, based on a Stephen King short story. Running Man.
The Running Man.
Yeah, Running Man. Yeah, I think I'd have that at number three.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be True Lies, Total Recall, and Terminator 2.
Yeah, I'd be True Lies and Terminator 2. And I'll be honest, I might have put Kindergarten Cop in there too. I enjoy that movie. It's not the tumor.
Lord.
We've got two phases of Arnie. Like we've got two phases of Bruce Willis, two phases of Stallone. We've got the Terminator, the Commando, the Running Man, Total Recall, and then after True Lies, it all goes to pot. He starts doing Eraser. 6th Day plays Mr. Freeze in Batman and Robin, which I'm sure everyone would like to forget. And then pops up again in the Expendables movies. And
Well, there was a chunk of time when he had his political career, wasn't he? The governor of California, and that explained, cutting some slack for that, perhaps. But I just think he bizarrely got afraid of being typecast, wanted to try new things, and he should have stuck to what he was great at, which is a big slab of meat, smashing his way through various deserts or Latin American dictatorships and saving the day for the US. I thought that
and he did do a film with Johnny Knoxville called The Last Stand, where he played the mayor of a small town that an escaped drug dealer had to come through at some point, and he had to stop it. And that was with Johnny Knoxville. It sounds like it shouldn't work at all, and possibly if you watched it, you probably think it doesn't. But it's getting the whole town to try and defend itself against Johnny Knoxville and Arnie.
Isn't he from the Jackass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2006, I think it was, something like that.
But the thing about Schwarzenegger, though, is that, I agree his movies kind of went downhill, but he'll always be an icon.
Yes.
He's right up there on the Mount Rushmore of action heroes. And, it's Terminator, I guess, is his most famous role. I wouldn't necessarily, think of him in Predator. I mean, people will associate him with Predator, but I think when most people think of Schwarzenegger, the first thing that comes to mind is Terminator.
Yeah, but then we see the law of diminishing returns on Terminator.
True.
It just the last crop of movies have been not just woeful, but some of them downright offensive. Just don't work.
I slightly disagree with Joe, though. Like, I think if you did a sample of the public, UK, US, and ask them to name their Family Fortune star, what's your, what do you associate with Arnold Schwarzenegger? I think Terminator would be number one, but I think Predator would be number 2 or 3. Maybe it was a bigger hit over here than it was in the US, perhaps. But I think it's one of his kind of core roles that defined him.
Yeah, why didn't you want to see it, Joe? That's why didn't you want to see it at the time?
Well, just to answer Dom, I would say most people, they wouldn't be able to name what the character was when you said Predator. I mean, they might have known that he was in it, but it's not too memorable of a character. Well, over here, I wouldn't say it is. It's not Rocky, it's not Rambo, like where Stallone had those. But Schwarzenegger definitely has the Terminator, and that is such a classic character. I don't know. The trailers just did nothing for me. I'll be honest with you. I mean, and I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger back then. This was before Terminator 2, right? Yeah. That's when he just broke out. Like he became a star during Terminator 2. But like when I saw the trailers, all I saw was a lot of close-up of Arnold's biceps. And when I saw the movie, that was like maybe another cast member was his right arm bicep.
It was one for the mums.
Yeah, I guess so. And maybe for some dads too.
Yeah,
But
Maybe.
exploding heads always bringing the mums and get some
but
going.
it got a little ridiculous though. That's why I see I don't understand the 10 part, because it's kind of cheesy. Like when you see it, like when Carl Weathers and him they first meet and they lock hands. It's like,
Oh,
all right,
son of a
stop.
bitch.
Well, look.
Yeah.
Let me be provocative then, right? So if you were to say who's the definitive '80s pop star, you might say Michael Jackson for the men and say
Yeah.
Madonna for the women. Yeah.
Yes.
But if you were going to say definitive '80s movie star, I think Arnie's got a good case to be, the number one male contender for that role.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Who else would be in that kind of challenging him on that pedestal? So Joe, you say it was Terminator 2 when he became massive, and that was 91. But I think of him as a kind of quintessential 80s action hero, I think.
We better move on to Carl Weathers, otherwise.
Oh yeah, sorry.
We'll have to do part two.
Carl Weathers or Bill Withers, as my mind tries to call
I
him.
just did that too. I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
Yeah. So we can summarize him more neatly than Charlie. So Apollo Creed, also in Happy Gilmore. There you go. There's your insight for
Chops in Happy Gilmore. Yeah.
So
Well,
Apollo Creed, Happy Gilmore.
That's a bit mean. I mean, there are admittedly not as big as that. Apollo Creed is a defining character. It's just
I could tell you
character.
one.
Well, I was going to say Action Jackson.
Action Jackson, yeah.
Yeah.
Action Jackson. I don't know if that was big where you guys were. We had G.I. Joe and we had Action Jackson action figures when we were little kids. And I preferred Action Jackson because, he was the size of my Marvel and DC superheroes. But yeah, Action Jackson was pretty cool growing up.
Is that like our version of Action Man?
Probably. He
In a
was like a
suit.
war hero. And,
Okay.
this was a masculine way for boys to play with dolls back then.
Yeah.
He did play a military policeman in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Did he really?
He
I
did.
did not know that.
He did. And he was also in Arrested Development. And Joe, how could you forget? He's Grief Karga in The Mandalorian.
Oh well, yeah, but I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't know if we were going there. But
Okay. Oh yeah. Well,
it's not like I forgot, but okay.
Right.
No, he's great. I mean, I love Carl Weathers. I mean, in fact, while I was watching this movie, I was kind of disappointed that the movie wasn't solely like more about him, that he didn't switch roles with Schwarzenegger, where maybe it was him and Schwarzenegger were the last two to survive. And he was the one that destroyed the Predator. I think that would have worked a little better for me.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I thought there could have been more of a redemption arc for him, but you're right, because he would have been a big star back then. It was definitely the Arnie show, but he was the number 2 in this equation, wasn't he? So he would have made Rocky 4 like a couple of years before this came out, didn't he? I think chronologically. So he was kind of really riding the crest of that Rocky wave, and then he made this.
Yeah, absolutely. Who have you got next on your list?
I next went for Bill Duke, the actor that plays Mac.
I've got to admit, I love watching Predator last night. I've watched it so many times, but I was blindsided how much I appreciated Bill Duke. It's his move. Part of his movie is descent into madness of losing his best mate, and it's just like this side thing's going on while the rest of the action's going on, and he's having a mental breakdown, and it's just like. And I look at things you've been in before, and I know you've got in there. I won't spoil your. He's in that as well in a moment, but he's in Commando. He's the guy that fights him in the hotel room, and he goes, "I was a Green Beret. I ate Green Berets for breakfast," and all this sort of stuff. And then they have a fight. But yeah, I loved him in this.
Yeah, I thought this role required him to act more than several of the other characters were needed to do when he was having that grief-stricken breakdown. And as I did a bit of research for the actor, perhaps I was unsurprised to learn that he was in more than I'd anticipated. So you're right, he was in Commando and Predator, and that reflects the fact that quite a lot of these actors did work together on multiple occasions. I think Jesse, we'll get on to some of the other ones later on, but Action Jackson that you mentioned earlier, Joe, that also had Bill Duke in it and Sonny Landham as well. So, maybe the cast got together. Maybe they were just the biggest blokes in the whole of America, and so therefore they were always cast when those sorts of people were required. But he was in American Gigolo. These are the ones I remember him from anyway. American Gigolo. Then he's in a couple of Mel Gibson films, Payback and Bird on a Wire.
Bird on a Wire.
Yeah.
It's gonna...
He played Trask in X-Men: The Last Stand, and even turned up in a Steven Seagal movie as well, Exit Wounds, which I don't remember, but I thought that's kind of like a bit of a clean sweep of some of the action genre, isn't it? Really, yeah. So, but he was also what was really surprising because he looks like a stereotypical character actor, doesn't he? A big, strapping, meaty bloke, but he was actually a reasonably accomplished director and did quite a number of TV series and films as well. Directed Deep Cover and A Rage in Harlem, which was nominated for the Palme d'Or. So, talk about having a few strings to your bow and defying expectations. So, I thought, good on him. Yeah. For a guy who has a mean line in sitting there dry shaving his face in an ominous manner, which is pretty cool.
Golly, I've done that before. Not my face, obviously, but my legs. And I've come out in a rash.
Where are we going with that?
You intentionally cut your legs?
No, I come out in a rash if I dry shave.
Oh, okay.
Don't you?
I don't touch my legs.
No.
You don't dry shave. What are you talking about?
No, but if you do.
No, it's like we don't. Next question.
If you did, you'd come out in a rash. Why wasn't he rash ridden?
It'd be hard to tell with him. I'll just say that.
Okay, who have you got next, Tom? On that note,
on that controversial note, right? Next, we have gone for a poncho character called Richard Chavez, much more obscure. After the big hit with Predator, which is his breakthrough, he made War of the Worlds TV series. It was in every episode. First series, there was artistic change of direction, wrote him out, and that was essentially the end of his career because after that, it was bits and pieces. I did read that he had a stalker, but it's difficult to know whether or not he his career withered because that's what happens in Hollywood. Them's the breaks, or because of his stalker. But apparently the police told him to protect his friends and his family and himself. He stopped attending conventions, withdrew from the public eye, and basically disappeared into obscurity.
Do you know, was he an actual American Indian?
I think he had some American Indian blood in him, but there were two, weren't there, that looked like they had American, Native American, whatever the politically correct term is. So this is for the benefit of our audience, the more slender of the two, the kind of scout character.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about because I kind of felt he didn't. I mean, I could be wrong, but he didn't look like Native American or anything like that.
Okay.
He played a good role. Maybe he did. He deserved more.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, which of these characters in this, because the rest of them all have pretty successful careers, very successful in some cases. Which one's going to be the one that fades into obscurity? I'm not sure. Many people would have called this guy, but sadly, that's what happened. Okay.
Who's next?
Next, I had Jesse Ventura playing Blaine with his epic gun. Yeah. So you probably, Joe, you and our American listeners will know him as a wrestler. Obviously had multiple, multifaceted career as a wrestler.
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yeah. His Wikipedia page did go into quite some depth about his wrestling career, and which I think reflects the level of interest in that in certain parts of the world. It was new to me. He did this film though, and was also again in Running Man with Arnie as well. I remember him distinctly in that.
Was he Mr. Fantastic or something?
Yeah, and Batman and Robin. So he was in 3 main films, all of which starred Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I think him and Arnie were good mates.
Who was he in Batman and Robin?
Yeah, I've got him as Batman and Robin, but I didn't write down who he was. He wouldn't have played Bane, would he?
I hope not.
I didn't make a note of his character either, I'm afraid.
Okay. Maybe I can see Amanda looking it up now.
He had a big political career over here too. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
Who's that?
Jesse Ventura.
The guy that played Blaine. Yeah. So he was what was he, 38th governor of Minnesota for 4 years. Yeah.
And that was huge. I remember when that happened too. Nobody thought he could win because he was a wrestler, but he went knocking on people's doors and introduced himself. I mean, thousands and thousands of people, and people really liked that because no other politician would do something like that. And that was a huge part of his win. And I always remember that. I thought that was really cool.
And the other thing that was noteworthy was that he wasn't a Republican or a Democrat. He was for the Reform Party, apparently, the party's only candidate to win a major government office, it said here. So he did it outside the kind of mainstream thing. But prior to this, so he's got such an interesting life. He started off after a certain age being in the US Navy underwater demolition team during the Vietnam War. Then he became a wrestler. Then he became the actor. Then he became a politician. And after leaving office, he was a visiting fellow at Harvard University's JFK School of Government. I mean, to say he's a big, dumb, killing machine in this movie, he's in depth.
The ultimate killing machine.
And he's not the only one. We've already talked about Duke, but we'll get onto a couple of the other ones as well.
Yeah, in Batman and Robin, he played Arkham Asylum guard. That's the.
Okay, now that you mentioned that, I think I remember him.
Right. He's also in Demolition Man. Did we say that?
Oh no, I just got him in Predator, Running Man, and Batman and Robin, but he's in Demolition Man as well.
In Demolition Man. So I suppose next we're moving on to Sonny Landon.
Yeah, Sonny Landon. Why don't you run with this one, Charlie?
I don't have much. He was in 48 Hours. He played pool worker number 2 in Poltergeist. I will have to go back and watch that. I never have a problem watching Poltergeist. I do like that. Again, the reunion, as you already pointed out, Don, Action Jackson. They must have all got like wasted. Well, I don't think it was a fun set. Let's put it that way. But they must have shared some tequila or whiskey and gone, should we all make a film together? And they could, yeah. Well, who drew straws for who's gonna be the lead? And Carl Weathers go on. It's like, it's me. Fine, okay.
Well, I'm sure like Schwarzenegger remembers his friends and tries to get them in his movies, and I think that's what he did with Jesse. For a couple of times.
Yeah, despite the fact they had a little nice, healthy rivalry.
Yeah. Who is this guy, Sonny? Which character did he play?
Billy is the guy, the tracker.
The one that is supposed to be Native American, I think.
So I'm confused. So the guy we were talking about prior to this, who is he?
Yeah, that was what I was trying to clarify. So there's two characters there's the one we're talking about now, Sonny Landon, who played Billy. He's the quite big, muscular one who was the one who's able to kind of make a snap assessment on what had happened in a part of the jungle a few days earlier. The other guy was the kind of more
he got hit by a log.
Conventional, got hit by a log scout, I suppose he was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the last thing I've got, Sonny Landon was in with Stallone in Lock Up.
I remember him being in The Warriors, which was one of my dad's favorite films for some reason. I was never that keen on it, but he used to watch that periodically, and he was in that as well. He was in a big fight scene at the start of that. He also ran for political office, so he's that's three of the main actors in this film. So yeah, Rand became governor of Kentucky, but unlike the other two, Jesse Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger, was unsuccessful.
I've got two more on mine. I probably would match up. I think we've got to, even though it's a very minor character, we've got to have a shout out for Shane Black. Hawkins, first person to get killed by the Predator that we see on screen. He played a crewman in The Hunt for Red October. He was in As Good as It Gets. But however, that's his movie career. His movie career wasn't the thing. At the time of doing this, his other film that he wrote, Lethal Weapon, was out. 1987. What a great year, apart from Stakeout, for films. He wrote all the Lethal Weapons. He wrote The Last Boy Scout. He wrote The Long Kiss Goodnight. And the thing about it, when you go back and watch those films, I think he's got a writing style all of his own that if you didn't know you're watching a Shane Black written film, you would pick it up. A bit like Tarantino. You can see that Tarantino went in and rewrote some parts of Crimson Tide. You can go and see which parts exactly, which bits he did, because he was talking about Silver Surfer and all of the pop culture references. You can see that. Shane, The Last Boy Scout is a great film. The Long Kiss Goodnight is a great film. Unfortunately, he ended up writing The Predator, which we'll get to, which wasn't very good, the 2018 film. But then equally, you've got Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is a wonderful film. Can't wait to watch that again. And he's currently writing Lethal Weapon 5, which we know is being made.
But he wasn't just the writer, he was also the director of several of those films as well. So he directed Predator, he directed Iron Man 3, directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang as well. So for a period, he was the most successful kind of writer-director in Hollywood, which is not bad going, is it really? And, you know, Predator aside, his subsequent film appearances were essentially just cameos for the sake of it, you know, to show his face and goof off and appear in another movie. So that was, you know, he was very much behind the camera was his forte, and is highly successful. I've got some stuff on that for trivia time. Perhaps we'll save it.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Well, the last thing that I would mention is director. What a 1, 2, 3. Predator in 87, Die Hard in 88, Hunt for Red October in 1990. Boom. Now that I'd sit down and watch that trilogy any day. That's not bad.
A hell of a run of form, isn't it?
Yeah. To go from this and go, how are you going to top Predator? I don't know. I'm going to off-duty cop in well, there you go. And we've covered.
I would mention the composer.
Alan Silvestri. Yeah,
he was great. And when I was watching this movie, I instantly thought of Back to the Future, like with a lot of the pieces or the sections that he used. It reminded me a lot of Back to the Future. But he's been a really good composer. I mean, he did Forrest Gump. I guess he did like some of the Marvel movies. I think he did the Avengers theme, Captain America.
Right. Yeah. It's good shout to give a shout out. A recognizable composer.
Yeah.
Then you could lift some of that score and put it in Back to the Future, and you hardly
definitely.
Notice. Yeah.
Like when Biff steals the book.
Absolutely. Right. Well, that's the end of roll call.
The last one for me. I just shout out to Kevin Peter Hall, the guy that played the Predator, who turfed out Jean-Claude Van Damme from that role. So,
boo.
7'2", did Predator and Predator 2, Harry and the Hendersons, and was dead at 36. So tragic end to his life.
You mean we never knew it's Harry and the Hendersons? It was Bigfoot and the Hendersons over here.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, he played him, did he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was he Alien too? The first Alien in Ridley Scott's Alien?
I didn't pick that up in my research.
That's Yaphet Kotto is the only black person in Alien. Can we also give a shout out, because he's also the helicopter pilot that comes and picks Arnie up? That's the Predator.
Oh, really? All right, I'll check that out again.
Yeah, it's worth.
Interesting.
You go back and look at that. You go, no, seems familiar. It was also in a TV show with Courtney Cox before she became famous and Friends, called Misfits of Science.
I remember that.
It's awful. Do you remember it being awful, Joe? Because it is.
I was probably younger, so I probably.
Courtney Cox had psychic powers, so she could bring down helicopters with her psychic powers. It sounds just like the thing that would be up my street. No, even I have limits.
I was a little more forgiving back then.
Right. Anyway, right, onto the film then. So, thoughts? What do we think worked? What do we think maybe? I think most of it worked. I think there were a few things. I've got a few quibbles that I have with the film. I'll get one of them out of the way. If the Predator is in this vicinity and is hunting, why isn't all of those people in the camp wiped out and literally all of them dead? Because he would have had a go. Surely he would have had a go at all those armed men. Wow, what a challenge for him.
Well, didn't he just land like not too long ago?
No, because he.
Oh, we don't know that.
Oh, well, he skewered the guys in the helicopter. He's got skinned the guys alive that came looking for the people in the helicopter. So I'd say that even he'd been there 24 hours. Well, what's he doing? Sitting in a tree, knocking around, going, well, I'll just wait for some more people to come. Just look over there. There's a massive camp. Well, loads of them.
Oh, he's polishing his heads that he got,
Ooh.
the skulls.
Yeah, did you
sounds.
notice though?
Might have to click the rude button.
There were other skulls on his belt.
I noticed that too. Like he had
I noticed
animal
that.
skulls on there for the first time.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Were they our animals?
Some of them were, yeah, like they were smaller creatures. And again, I don't know if they were earthbound animals or alien.
I have a suspicion that he'd been there for quite some time.
Well, then by that logic, he can't have been because he's sat next to a hunting ground.
Yeah, but the girl, didn't the girl, was it the girl or Billy?
No, it's the actress, the one that we completely missed in roll call, but that's because she
didn't do anything.
That's fine.
Yeah, she said that he was some kind of legend, didn't she?
I think the implication was that this wasn't his first visit to the planet to do some hunting. They've done it in the past, or his species have that. I think he'd only.
Yeah, it might have been.
My
species.
interpretation was he'd just recently arrived, in that vicinity. But
I didn't get that.
And as
Actually,
bizarre
that's a good
as this sounds, I used to read the Predator comic books, even though I didn't see the movie. And I'm not sure if this was actual lore, but there was one point where the Predators had a criminal and then they just dumped him on Earth. And I kind of wonder if that was him, because he did act a little insane towards the end. If like they were ever going to pick him up or anything like that, it was just like, well, just get rid of this guy because he's a nutball.
Well, that brings a whole new dimension to the drop off at the start, which isn't that the craft's going to come back and get him. That's your lot, son. You're on Earth now. Wow. Well, then why would he have to prove anything?
I don't know. Maybe just liked hunting. Maybe it was his vacation. It's like, I'm not going to start killing people for 7 days. All right. Just want to hang out by the pool, get a tan, and which he didn't get. Pale as a ghost, that one.
Well, while we're on the subject, might as well get this out of the way. They made films after this with right. Okay. So let's just do that. And it's preposterous. I mean, it does the descriptions get ever more worse as you carry on. I genuinely love Predator 2. I like Predator 2. I really like Predator 2. It just reunites loads of people that I just really liked. But Alien versus Predator was a comic book at the time and was just invented as just like, why don't we just, a bit like the podcast when you mentioned about putting all these comic book characters together. Well, why don't we put Alien and Predator together? So then they made the film. And then you find out that at the end of Predator 2, when Danny Glover goes into their craft, he sees the xenomorph's head, which you see that they've been hunting the alien. It's like, well, that's pretty cool. So then they made a film out of it and said they created the aliens to hunt, which doesn't make a lot of sense because then Prometheus and you've got all that. But anyway. Well,
not necessarily that they created it. It was just one of their trophies. They did hunt aliens.
They did, but it was put in Alien versus Predator that created the aliens in order to give them a challenge and something to hunt. And then they've had a base here for thousands of years, which is an underground pyramid. I'm only even starting with the first film and it's already sounding a bit preposterous, but yeah. And at the end of the film, there's a predator and alien hybrid that comes out the predator's chest. You're like, oh, good Lord. You jump in the shark here. You really are already. The next one, they crash land in Colorado. They end up nuking the town on that one. Then you've got the Predator, where the guy finds a bit of the armor. He mails himself the armor. There's a larger Predator and comes and kills the other. It's just ridiculous.
Did you see Predators? Did you mention that
Well,
one?
yeah. Well, and then I was going to say, well, predators. They put all of these hunters on an island. You don't explain how they get there. Or sorry, on a world. You don't explain how they get there. And the predator wants to test himself against a yakuza, test himself against a ninja.
I
And
thought that one was okay. That one was pretty good.
And then you've got. Well, all I'm saying is you've got a great character here. Why would you reduce it to? Why would you make a worse film? And I know you can say that about Alien, you can say that about Terminator, you can say that about most films, I suppose.
Exactly. That's the whole thing, is that they don't know how to handle these characters. And they just think just because we have the license for it, people are going to want to see these movies over and over again with new adventures. But you have to have really good people that are good at stories, and they just don't do that anymore. It's they rely too much on special effects or famous actors, and they just don't give a crap about what they're writing. But yeah, you are completely right. This whole Predator franchise and Alien franchise, because they're very similar, they could have been so much more, and they just wasted it.
Yeah.
I just wonder how great a character the Predator actually is anyway, really. For me, the bits I enjoyed most in this film were by far where the human beings or the actors are interacting, and the camaraderie, and the scenes where they're understanding what happens, the assault in the camp. I thought that the Predator as a character hurries the action along, and he's obviously the protagonist within all of this. But actually, if you think about it, he's this arch hunter, this universal kind of hunting machine. Quite often his method of hunting is just to fire some sort of plasma cannon into somebody's back and kill them. That's like a little bit like taking a machine gun, isn't it, to hunt deer or something? Just it's not exactly a particularly fair fight, I thought. So
but then you've got Predator 2, and he kills them in so many different ways in that, so you can see that he's quite versatile. And how can you then go and mess that up?
Well, it is an unfair advantage, especially with the camouflage that he has. I mean, if he wants to be a warrior, it's almost like it's so easy for me to like go out and then shoot lines if they can't see me, but if you really want to be man or to beast, you arm yourself with a knife and you go after that. But that's what you would think that's what the Predator is thinking. Well, towards the end, he was like that, like with Arnold, and it was just the two of them.
Yeah, this is my comments about the structure of film. So you've got the first half an hour or so introduced to all these characters, and you with them observing their interactions. They attack the village and things, and then in a fairly perfunctory way, they're kind of some of them are killed off, and it's fairly you invest in his character, and suddenly he's dead, and you move on, another one's dead, and you kind of rattle through their deaths, some of which are unseen. In the case of what was he called, the Apache guy. And then you've got this kind of long epic ending between Arnie and the Predator. So that's kind of why I didn't quite score a 10 out of 10 for me. It was a little uneven in that respect, I think.
Right.
I know over here.
No. But I just think, Amanda, you haven't spoken for a while.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, actually, rather bizarrely, when I get my visual migraines, my vision goes like I'm seeing Predator.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really weird how it works, and it starts in the middle and then works its way out. It's
She gets
really
these little horns on the side of her face that come out.
I
Oh
go,
God!
wah, wah.
But
Like
you
a
have
duck.
like night vision.
So yeah,
a
that's
duck.
So for me, that film has given me an explanation on how I can actually describe my visual migraines, and I've done that on a few occasions.
And does anyone under 30 know what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, I don't speak to anyone under 30 really anymore. I'm that age now.
Yeah. Okay.
Even when I'm auditing.
Maybe we go to the next one.
Even when I'm auditing and I make cultural references, I'm now that far ahead generationally that people are like, no. And I realize, oh God, I have to say the immortal words. Just Google it.
I just wanted to say one thing over here. A lot of the critics had a big problem with this aspect of the movie. They said it was two different movies.
Which aspect?
It was two different movies.
Oh.
Like when they saw it, because in the beginning they're going after some rebels, and it's a whole military thing, and then it turns into an alien movie or or a horror movie. And for some reason, they really didn't like that. Like they would rather it just be one thing. It was almost like a bit confusing to some audience members.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, so they never saw Aliens then? Not a fan of like one of the greatest science fiction movies of the 80s. I mean, that's
You're
pretty
in
much,
space.
yeah.
The clue's in the title.
You're fighting an unseen enemy. You fight an enemy that can camouflage itself well. Oh, you've got like really big guns. Oh,
Wasn't this film actually going to be called Hunter?
yes.
And that's why Arnie says he's a hunter. And there's no reference in the film to the word predator, is there?
No, but Predators are better. Well, I mean, I would have liked it to be called Hunter, but there was a TV series of the same name starring Fred. Is it Fred Dryer?
I think so.
Yeah. It was kind of supposed to be a comedy action, but it was a lot more action. Remember it? Anyway, the body count in this. Does anyone want a quick guess? What's the body count?
Well, I did think
With all the gorillas that got killed.
80 odd in that camp alone, wasn't it?
In
Minus
total,
one.
69 humans. Most of them at hands of Dutch.
Yeah.
One scorpion, one boar, and one predator.
One scorpion, one boar.
That's another minor annoyance. So for years, I thought whatever the predator touched, he killed. Because when he goes to the scorpion and picks a scorpion up and puts the scorpion in the palm of his hand, the scorpion goes black. Whereas previously there was a little bit of life left in it, even though it's been squished. And the scorpion goes black. And I'm like thinking, does he have the power to like...
Scorpion didn't go black. You didn't see the scorpion.
He did.
You just saw the...
He held the scorpion in the palm of his hand.
Yeah, but you saw the visual image, what he would see.
And there was heat, and then it disappeared and it went black. And I was like, whoa, sure he can. I can already see Joe is going to go back and go have a look
No,
at
I remember that part. But
I'm going to look at the helicopter pilot. I'm going to look at the scorpion. I'm going to
He
look
probably
at
went black because
no,
it
I thought
died.
didn't Bill, Duke, didn't he just kill it?
No, he stepped on it. It still had some life left in it.
He stabbed it and he stepped on it. You would think that it'd be dead at that point.
Well, there was still red. There was still red showing in the predator thing until he picked it up.
Unless it's not thermo, it's actually sort of some acid detector.
Yeah.
Acid cam.
Oh, well, that's an annoyance because in Predator 2, they wear suits that protect themselves from the heat, so they can't have any thermal image. But the Predator just goes click and switches to a different view, and they can see all the torches, so he can see where all the people are because they're on the other end of the torch.
They should have just covered themselves in mud, shouldn't they? It would have been far easier.
Well, yeah. What do we talk about? Favorite characters? Who's? I mean, Arnie aside, who's your favorite characters in this, or favorite character, maybe?
Well, I think there's a case for Blaine, isn't there, with his gun, which I remember being called a helicopter gun, but I don't know if they referred to it as that in the film. What's it called? Old Painless.
Old Painless.
Yeah. I mean, that it's probably very Freudian. I don't know, but that had a distinct impression on me in the playground. I remember playing, wanting to have that gun when I was younger. Watching this film.
Isn't that like a Gatling gun?
Yeah, it's usually on the side of a helicopter.
Right, surely if you're in that situation, they wasted a lot of ammo, don't you think?
Oh yeah, when they were shooting in the woods. I
Yeah,
was like,
they just like obliterate everything. And you're like, you've got a finite amount of ammo. You're not still 100% sure you've got him, but you've just used probably, a third or a half of what you've got. Was that very wise?
no, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, considering they don't know what they're going to encounter, you've got to.
Yeah.
Why do they need to make a stand? Why don't they just get to the chopper?
True.
They had to take the northeast trail, didn't they? And it wasn't the good way to go.
No, but building their Home Alone traps in the jungle Admittedly, there were no swinging paint cans or anything like that. That would have been
There
a,
was
that would have been a
swinging
different
logs.
film, wouldn't it?
There were
Predator-
swinging logs.
Predator stands in a bear trap and then puts his face in some jam or something and clumsily starts going around. Be like the Naked Gun.
I think that would work, you know.
Yeah.
The
That's what they should do
jam,
for the next reboot is a slapstick version of Predator where he
Yeah,
gets his
the
head
jam
blasted by
could clog
flames and
up
doesn't
his
move
little
it.
guns on his shoulders, couldn't it?
His little
Get
fingers
the
going
glue
mad.
out. Get the glue.
Well, I was like, how the hell is that little stick holding up that huge log?
Yes. Yeah.
Physics, Joe, physics.
Oh, the other minor annoyance, Bill Duke's head gets basically blown up. But yet when Carl Weathers comes and sees him, his head is tilted and his head's fine. I'm like, basically he shouldn't have a head left.
Yeah.
So,
For a man who scored this 10 out of 10, you are finding a number
I'm
of minor
picking
annoyances.
slight things. I could sit down and watch this on repeat. I just love it.
Why don't you tell us what you love about the film? Go on, what's your highlight in this film then, Charlie?
The highlight is exactly what the reason why Joe said that some people didn't like it. It takes you in a direction in one way. It takes you these hardened people that have seen all of this action. Obviously, the insinuation being we turned down Libya because we didn't want to assassinate Gaddafi. Fine. Okay, so they've got some morals in there. They're people that they're very good at what they do. They go in there, and then suddenly they have to react to this thing that they haven't encountered before. And maybe I probably was arguing against myself. Maybe it is their thing that they say, do you know what? We've got to do something about this. Otherwise, we're going to be picked off one by one. Why don't we just enclose it, make a perimeter around it, and have something that at least we can control to try and see if that we can do something about it? And what it doesn't do is fall really easily into the trap of going, do you know what? I'll just make this all a bit camp, all a bit kitsch, all a bit something in it. There's genuine fear. You've got the bit where Arnie, goes up and inadvertently makes himself, invisible to the thing that was invisible to them. And suddenly he goes, right, okay, well, I've leveled the playing field now. It might not work in my favor. It will. Spoiler alert, it's an Arnie film. Of course he couldn't lose. But you get to see this thing where the Predator actually treats him as an equal and fights him as an equal and goes, okay, right, let's do this. And yeah, okay, you've got the nuclear bomb at the end that, he walks away from. But if you look at the other films that were out in 1987, we had some great films that were out. We'd had some great films beforehand. This just went, I'm going to take you in a different direction, and I'm going to give you an Arnie film, but not what you expected. And I think it's that unexpected nature that means I give it a 10.
I wanted to talk about one other goofy thing. What about like when Carl Weathers' arm gets chopped off?
Oh, yeah, and it's still firing.
And his finger is still pushing the trigger on the ground.
I think that would be like an exception to what Charlie's just said there. I think I do agree with his analysis. I think that's spot on. I think it does defy. People who are not a fan of this sort of thing may think it's formulaic, but it really isn't. But I would say something like that, Joe, is an example of where they do throw a bit of a bone to that more slapstick kind of predictable stuff, I would say. So yeah, that's maybe the exception that proves the rule, perhaps.
You can have that though, where you can have a muscle spasm when something's been.
You could have it spasm, but it wouldn't be able to shoot off rounds. Although it might not have been shooting off rounds, it might have just been twitching. But it did.
Well, they
kind
weren't
of give the
consistent
impression-
rounds, so it means that it was. I think they actually filmed it, so it was twitching because it wasn't consistent rounds. It was just as the kept going. I don't realise this podcast.
Yeah, it was
got
just-
loads of.
It was just goofy looking to me.
Well, I just think it was supposed to be fun, I think it was supposed to be funny, really, and I know it sounds a bit strange, like dismemberment and so, but this was an action film, wasn't there? Some of the lines in it, if you take them literally, are ridiculous. The stick around, the I ain't got time to bleed, these things they're supposed to be funny, aren't they, and amusing? And I think that it seems like a very 80s thing today, but violence is what the audience wanted. It's catered to a certain section. I'm not saying it would have been an ideal date movie. I'm not saying that the female demographic was overly represented in Predator screenings, perhaps, Amanda, but American, British, people around the world, they want that to an Arnie film because you think, right, I'm going to see guns, explosions, violence, something that's going to be
Hustle.
Yeah, muscle, yeah, very homoerotic, perhaps. I don't know, but yeah, that scene when the start of the film is brilliant, and they're flying on their choppers and they land in the base, and Arnie walks in, and is it Dylan? Yeah, and Arnie hasn't clocked him yet. Some damn fool accused you of being the best, and they have that kind of mid-air arm wrestling session, which must be one of the campest scenes ever committed to film, really.
It did go on for a little bit too long, didn't it, as well? You're like,
yeah, it was a good 3 to 4 seconds before they moved the camera again.
It was very, very lingering, wasn't it?
it was. They sprayed a little bit of oil on the muscle as well, I think, just to give it a bit of a glisten.
Oh yeah. No,
and poor Carl Weathers, I think his sleeve went down, because he got a big bicep too, but you really didn't get to see it that much because it was covered up a little bit.
I think Bill Duke was my unexpected favourite. I just think he was great. It just comes out with a line: "If you do that again, I'll bleed you real quiet." You're like, this guy could, and he could do that to Carl Weathers, and he would never know. And then you've got the obviously turn around bit where he skewers the scorpion, but
I must say,
it's just brilliant.
I keep wanting to call him Apollo Creed. You know what I mean? His character's a bit of a goofball, isn't he, really? He's supposed to be CIA. He's supposed to have been on missions before. Yeah, he completely cocks everything up, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's been on missions before.
He's like, the guy that they didn't want. It was like the guy that they'd picked last in PE to be on a team, I guess, because he just wasn't very good. He just invited himself along, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because he wasn't picked. And then he's like making noise when he shouldn't be, telling them fibs about why they're there. And you're just like, hang on.
It's because the CIA got him pushing too many pencils. That's what the problem was. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's lost his edge.
That's kind of it. It's that, money and fame has kind of changed him, where his old team, that didn't happen to them. That's why they were expendable, and
oh god, it's Rocky 5. It's Rocky 4, Joe. Stallone is no, it's Rocky 3. He sees the money and he changes and he loses it, and yeah, can see the parallels there.
But poor Apollo.
By the way, man mentioned PE for our American listeners. She means phys ed.
We know that.
Well, I know, but you didn't know. I don't know. People know what
we have PE, and we call it PE.
A PE was like something P. Diddy or Puff Daddy used to do, wasn't it?
What?
Yeah.
As we all know, as long as you've got £3 for the tuck shop and you don't forget your sun cream, then you can join in PE.
Oh, we had we had to explain what the tuck shop was, didn't we, Joe?
Yeah.
Cryptic 1 a.m. messages.
I know. I'd been out on the lash with work. Sorry, I'd sent it to the wrong group. It should have gone to the family group, and it went to your podcast group.
I suspected alcohol was involved.
But America didn't have a tuck shop equivalent.
No, it was just a food stand. That's all we would call it.
Oh.
That's where you get pizza from.
But what does tuck mean anyway?
Tuck, grub.
Like,
yeah.
Scran.
So Friar Tuck is a word for food?
Well, he did eat a lot, didn't he?
Yeah.
Not that much. I mean, he's not massive. I mean,
he was. Friar Tuck was massive, yeah.
Friar Tuck was a right old chubber.
Not in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh, sorry.
You're gonna watch that.
The definitive.
Oh my god, I don't want to hear it. We'll move on. We're on Predator.
Anyway,
right, okay,
so
yeah.
The thing that amazed me in this film was how quickly they were picked off by the Predator. Because as soon as one went, the second went. Then so girl runs, first victim. Second victim was, I called him Tobacco Man. The guy that kept spitting out stuff. Then they did lots of wasted ammo. Then they made their first protected base and realised he's actually in the tree, so that didn't work. Alien. Oh yeah, when he mends his leg from that kind of like ambush thing, he's got a medical kit.
Well, yeah. Well, he wouldn't he?
Would he? Oh.
Well, if you
Aliens.
ask,
In his armory. That was amazing. I thought that was wicked. And then the third
He's an
bit
alien.
was after he's mended himself, he just disappeared. You didn't see him again.
what?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah, go on.
And then the girl finally talks, and then so she was saying about, you know, that historic thing about, you know, the devil in disguise or whatever. And then she said that she'd seen his blood. And then was it Arnie that said, if it bleeds, we can kill it?
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go. So then he decided to make a trap in the trees. Then Matt was the fourth victim. The CIA guy was a fifth victim. So it didn't take long. And then Billy was the sixth. And then the wounded guy they were taking along to get back to the copter was the seventh. And then it comes after Arnie. And then you get that whole kind of like Arnie predator thing. So it actually wasn't that long from the first victim to the seventh before him and Arnie had the face off.
And that was my criticism. It's a bit perfunctory, just getting rid of the characters like bang, 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 bang. Right,
Yeah.
now it's the ending. So yeah.
I
thought
felt
that
you
was-
didn't really get to know the characters particularly well. They were just a little bit,
Yeah.
like we just put
They were
ads in there
throwaway.
just to give them a
Yeah.
bit of background. or whatever. So yeah, I think that could have been a bit better.
I think it would have been interesting if they might have been paranoid and thought it was somebody in their group doing it, killing
Ooh.
everybody one by one. You know, maybe not throughout the whole thing, but at first, like kind of being suspicious of somebody if they were like alone with the person that died or in the vicinity. They're like, you know, well, maybe he's lost it. He's the one that's killing them. Or
So we've got a horror
That
version of
couldn't have
Predator.
worked though, could it?
you don't think so?
No, because the girl ran off, didn't she? And the guy chased her.
Hawkins, yeah.
And
I thought they
he-
could have made more of the
one-
jungle. You know, it's obviously the scenery and the settings is really effective, and I'm sure we'll hear about how tough it was to film there. But I think Joe's right. You could have made more of the location, how kind of claustrophobic and difficult it really must have been to have been there. Yeah, that possibly could have been better explored.
And surely, doesn't it rain like in Central America a lot?
Well, it's a 24-hour period.
Was it 24 hours?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would say.
yeah, about that. Yeah, one night. Yeah. It's-
I thought it
They're,
was 2
they're,
nights.
they're all off in the day, and then he's left on his own in the night.
Might have been a little bit longer because I think they might have had.
I think it was a 48-hour thing.
Oh, wait a minute. The ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there was one night. Okay. Well, all right. Well,
So anyway, I'd have thought it would have rained, and I thought that would have like cocked
so
up
so
the
you think that
Predators
what was
kind of-
missing was rain? Right.
What?
Okay. You thought that what was missing from the film is it should have had a bit more rain.
Well, if it was Central America, it would have rained.
Okay. Should have had some ant hills or like a.
Maybe the
Right.
predator can control rain.
Nah, I think
That's-
it would have mucked up his electronics. I don't think he'd have been able to have.
I think he's
been-
accounted for that though.
No. I don't think he'd have even been able to have gone invisible in the rain.
If it rains.
No.
Well, okay. The evolution of the predator. We need to do something about this rain thing. 1,000 years later, he's in this film and goes,
Hang on.
"Oh, I knew
No,
we had
no, no,
something
no,
we
no,
needed
no,
to
no.
fix."
How do you know it rains on his planet? You don't.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they've been there before, and they've been to that area before, but they've never experienced rain.
He primarily attacks the Bedouin in the Sahara. That's his main market.
He's
If you
a
live in,
bit,
if you live in
he's a bit
England,
off
it's absolutely
kilter.
fine because yeah, just
The Indians call him Gagala or something.
if you don't like the Predator, come and live in Manchester, and yeah, he's never been seen once.
So if there was no rain or water, he'd probably smell and they could probably trace him that way.
Yeah. We're spotting some
Ooh,
flaws
like
in there.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, when
That
he
was a
falls
bit-
in the river, it does mess with his electrics.
exactly. Thank you.
But I'm sure. Yeah, but he soon fixes it.
Well, he doesn't because he has to get himself dry, doesn't he? It was missing a towel.
Good lord!
That's what
Right.
it was missing.
Do you know what? This is descending into madness. Let's put it back on a keel. Let's go to trivia time.
It's hot. Sorry.
Ready? Yeah. It's trivia time. Here we go.
Trivia time.
Let's go first. Who's got? I've got some.
Oh, you
See if
guys
everyone
go.
else has got some.
I'm out of it. I didn't really look at trivia.
I haven't got any trivia.
Take it away, guys.
Okay, well, I'll go with a couple, and then Dom, I'm sure you've got a few there as well. The film provided a variety of hardship for the actors, such as leeches, snakes, stifling humidity, heat, and rough terrain. All of the night scenes were filmed during freezing cold temperatures, which were especially hard on Schwarzenegger during the latter half of the film, when the mud he had to wear, actually it was pottery clay, became cold and wet. He was warned it would take his body temperature down just a few degrees, and he shivered non-stop. Even when they tried to heat him with lamps, it just made the clay dry out.
Poor baby.
He tried drinking Jägertree, a schnapps mixture, to warm him, but it just got him drunk, so they stopped. I think that's brilliant.
Where was it filmed?
That was like Jaeger bombs. Here you go, Arnie. Have some Jaeger bombs. That'll warm your cockles.
You'll be fine, yeah. Why are you slurring your words?
Was it filmed like in the Congo or?
Yes.
Does it say?
No, it was in Wales.
Guatemala.
Full Metal Jacket. I mean, did they film that in England? I guess they
It's
can
Guatemala.
film
They
there.
filmed it.
It's Guatemala. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And it gets cold there, does it?
Well, yeah. I mean, so I'll do the second bit while
Go
we're
on,
talking
then.
about the location.
Okay.
Gunfire. So the hardships of the location were many. Gunfire from Guatemalan rebels could be heard at night, and poisonous snakes often invaded the production camp. Working extremely long and hard days and nights in these conditions, Sam Winston's crew found release in practical jokes. The hotel where they were staying in Mexico was right at the edge of a forest, Richard Landon recalled, and on the lawn there were hundreds of frogs hopping out of that forest. So some of us went down, gathered up a bunch of these frogs, which were huge, half a loaf of bread in size, so big old frogs.
Oh my God.
And filled the shower stall in Stan's room with them. Then we hid, stood back to hear what would happen. When Stan got back to his room, after a couple of minutes, we could hear him yelling, "Frogs, frogs! There's frogs in my room." Who put frogs in my room? We all stuck our heads in innocently and go, "What's happened?" He goes, "Someone's put frogs in my room." And I know who did it. It was Arnold. Schwarzenegger and Stan were always playing practical jokes, so of course he assumed he'd done it. He told us, "Help up gather the frogs," and we put them in Arnold's room. What he didn't realise is that his wife, or wife-to-be, Maria Shriver, was visiting that weekend. Arnold didn't find the frogs in his room. She did. And she wasn't happy. And for years, Winston continued to believe that Schwarzenegger initiated the frog incident. And that's how he told the story when he appeared on the Arsenio Hall talk show one night. It wasn't until the following night, when Schwarzenegger appeared on the show, he swore his innocence before a television audience of millions, that the guy finally confessed. The guy that did it finally confessed. And Winston learned that his own cute crew members are the culprits. I never knew it was him because from the day it happened, we never spoke of it. I kept waiting for him to bring it up, and he kept waiting for me to bring it up, and neither of us did. And that's why the truth didn't come out till years later.
Ooh.
Yeah, I
Frogs.
think if I'd upset Arnold Schwarzenegger and his wife to be, I think I'd probably keep my mouth shut about it.
Yeah.
Fear of,
Yeah, but they both thought
serious
that,
injury.
they had to go on retrospective talk shows to find out the truth. It's very strange. What have you got, Dom?
I've looked at the weather.
Oh,
Guatemala,
okay.
it's not as hot as you think, actually. Temperatures, January temperatures, well, it's basically the whole year, middles, the highest temperature from about 24 to 27, 28 degrees, and the lowest is 12 degrees up to 16. So I didn't think it got that low, actually, but surely you'd be able to cope in a 16, sort of 14 degree weather with clay on him.
Cold at night, warm in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not exactly cold, though, is it? 16 degrees.
Anyway, I'm feeling the heat of the jungle in the UK today, or as Joe calls it, an average day in Florida.
Yeah.
I do like this one. Just the last one. Jesse Ventura and Schwarzenegger had a bit of a rivalry going. Used to play pranks. and Jesse Ventura would know that Arnie would get told that Arnie's on his way to the gym, where they would all do, and he'd pour water on him. He'd pour water on himself. And so Arnie would walk in thinking that Ventura was drenched in sweat and believed he was working out longer than he actually was. So Arnie began his workout sooner, and Ventura's his worked out. And in the end, they both arrived at the gym at 4 a.m. because they were just trying to outdo each other. I like that. Tom.
My Arnie trivia is in the context of the actor rather than the film. So as I was reading his biopic to prepare for roll call, young Arnold was in the Austrian army in 1965, having to do the year of mandatory military service. During his army service, he won the Junior Mr. Europe contest. He went AWOL during basic training so he could take part in the competition and spent a week in military prison. Participating in the competition meant so much to me that I didn't carefully think through the consequences, he said by way of understatement. But I thought that was that was pretty hardcore. Winning Junior Mr. Europe at 18. Secondly, doing a week in military prison as a result of it.
Did you guys ever see Pumping Iron?
No, but that's I think where that comes from. And I really want to after
you should
this pod.
It's such a great movie, and it's him versus Lou Ferrigno and
the Hulk.
Yeah, I mean, they're both competing. It's a real documentary of them competing for Mr. Universe at that time. And Arnold is just a villain, but he's such a lovable villain. That was the movie that made him a star because people noticed him. That's like, he's got something, I mean, first of all, he's got looks, he's got the body, but he's also smart too, because he was messing with Lou Ferrigno's mind, where it kind of almost caused him to lose. And Lou doesn't come off on this good at all. He's just not the brightest guy, but definitely check that out. What's amazing about it is it's real. It's a documentary, and it's just so much fun. I'd say I'd have to put that up on maybe my number 2 Schwarzenegger film now that I think about it.
Right. Wow. Maybe I'll find a way we can all get together and watch it.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah. I don't know how I'd do that, but anyway. Sure, I'll find a way to get it to us. So quite a recent one, April 2021, the original Predator writers were suing Disney, 20th Century Studios. According to the Hollywood Reporter, Jim and John Thomas, who wrote 1987's Predator, have filed a lawsuit against 20th Century Studios about the copyrights to the sci-fi action classic. They filed the suit to exploit a copyright termination provision in order to recover the copyright to their literary material. Disney filed a countersuit against them to keep the franchise under its ever-expanding film roster, and the lawsuit has put plans for a 5th Predator solo movie on hold. You know a bit about this, because I know you've talked about this on your podcast, Joe, where Disney file a countersuit in order to try and either retain the copyright that they've got or to steal the copyright.
Well, Predator is basically dead, I would say, as a franchise after that last movie, The Predator. And Disney wants to resurrect it so it can kill it again, because anything that Disney is going to do with Predator, it's going to be awful.
What about Quentin Tarantino's Predator?
That would be a God blessing if that ever happens. But I have a feeling, what is he said he's going to do 11 movies.
One more to do.
It's got one more to do.
I heard that the next one might be Django Unchained, a sequel with Zorro in it. I hope that's not the case, but if that's going to be his last movie, I can't see him having room for Predator. He was going to do a James Bond movie. I would have loved to see that. Or
yes,
Star Trek movie.
And a Star Trek film.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, but Disney like they're quite a what's the word? Is it litigious? Litigious.
I would love to see a Predator walking around in the Disney parks, scaring little kids.
Yeah, chasing a xenomorph that'd be quite fun, like the Blues Brothers review show.
Yeah.
And then the two of them break out into song,
and then little Leia comes out of nowhere and says, "Stop!"
And everyone tries to chase her and can't keep up, keep slowing down. Yeah, very good. Right. Well, we got
Well,
anything
I've got-
else?
Yeah,
Oh.
I've got something else.
Oh, you've got some. Okay.
Apparently this year, next month, there's supposed to be a film coming out called Prey.
Yeah, I think it is out right now. It's on
And
Hulu.
and
Okay.
it's supposed to be the prequel to Predator,
What?
set in the 1700s in Guatemala.
What? He didn't think of sharing this like before when we were talking about has the Predator been here before? Yes. Funny you should say that. They just made a film about it. All right. Okay.
I'm surprised. So you didn't see a trailer for it? I
No.
guess not.
No.
It doesn't look very interesting to me.
Okay.
It looks very quote unquote woke. We'll just leave it at that.
Isn't
it's-
everything
it's a
apart
girl,
from Top
it's a
Bloke
girl
Maverick?
that plays the lead character. If that's woke, I don't know.
Well, we'll get ourselves into trouble if we start going down this rabbit hole.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not gonna. I'll talk about the rabbit hole once the podcast is over.
Well, on that note, I think look, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think we know exactly where
You
this is
got it.
going.
You're missing the big one. I thought that Dom was gonna say it.
Oh, the with Jean-Claude, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I know that he basically it was a combination because he was obviously in the suit. It was a combination of because he can do his martial arts, he can make the Predator into this thing. Well, obviously they get the suit, they realise the suit is quite cumbersome, and he can't do an awful lot in it. He then complains that he can't do the movements in it. The suit caused him to pass out all the time.
It was too hot, wasn't he?
And basically said, wait a minute, nobody's going to be able to see my beautiful face.
No one's going to know it's him.
Nobody's going to know it's me. And it's like, yeah, well, you're supposed to be an alien, unless, And I think because that, they just went, okay, a bit like Eric Stoltz in Back to the Future, you just go over there and we'll just bring in Kevin Peter Hall. And despite the fact that even though 7'2", he did struggle with it. He had to be connected. The suit was so heavy; it weighed over 200 pounds. The suit,
Wow.
and he had to be connected to a bungee ring in order for him to move more believably. And you can see that in parts where the Predator makes those big, sweeping, movements. When he's running, and you can see that he's obviously connected to some sort of rig that's enabling him to do that because it's just so heavy. But yeah.
Wasn't Van Damme's Predator? It was like a red lobster. Like it didn't look anything like the Predator that we saw in the movie.
I don't know that one. That'd be good. And
It's
it
good
maybe
job it
I need to
wasn't a
watch the
crab
documentary.
because only being able to move sideways would be quite a limiting factor in his predatory rampage, wouldn't it? Really. And
Well, if you go and watch the new Minions movie, Jean-Claude
Yeah, Jean-Claude. Yeah,
is
Oh, that was
actually
him?
that was
a
him.
lobster claw hand, and it's voiced by Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. It's very good.
Was it
Very good. Well, there we go. We've drawn it to close. We've done 3 lucky dips, 1 more to go. And the next film is going to be This Is Spinal Tap, which we will do again for your listening stroke viewing pleasure, or listening and viewing pleasure. You might be that into the podcast that you watch them both. If you do, then bless you. Weirdly, we're getting a lot of traction on YouTube. It's great. And in the middle of all of this watch videos that are being watched, there is a lonely island that has no viewers, has had no views, enough to make you trick YouTube into thinking, I'll give you 1 view. And that's Stakeout. And you know what? I'm happy with that. I'm happy nobody watches that.
Nobody's watched it, but people have listened to it, haven't they?
Oh, loads of people have listened to it, but nobody's gone in and gone, what do I fancy watching tonight? Or liked us so much in another podcast to go, ooh, what about Stakeout? Nobody has ever gone, do you remember Stakeout? Let's watch something. No, forget it. Joe, have you watched another Stakeout?
No.
No. With Rosie O'Donnell. Sounds great.
I'm surprised. What's his name? Emilio Estevez hasn't watched your podcast on it. You would think he would watch it because he's so full of himself.
Oh, crikey. Well, we know Robert Downey Jr. listens to our podcast, so he does. It's
But
true.
if you,
We know Cher's taking legal action following the previous pod in the series. But probably can't say anything more about that now, can we?
Well, not now. No.
No,
Not while the jury's been picked.
not after the B bomb was dropped repeatedly.
Yeah. She's used to that word though. She uses it a lot.
Yeah, crikey. It is. When you think back to Witcher of Eastwick, I was describing it to somebody and they went, so do you not think Jack Nicholson, did you conclude that Jack Nicholson was overrated then? I was like, yeah, I think we might kind of did in a sort of roundabout way. You've still got The Shining, you've still got One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but the rest of it is, and The Joker. Oh, and as good as it gets. All right, okay, maybe he's not. I don't know. But 4 good performances does not, well, actually probably does, because then you got Marlon Brando. He's made some dreadful films. Do anyone remember a film called The Freshman?
Yeah, I
Matthew
love
Broderick.
that film.
Do
Are you
you?
gonna say you don't like that?
Do you, Joe?
Yeah,
Do you really?
I do. And I thought Brando was excellent in that movie.
All right, okay. All right, well, maybe when we veer onto 90s podcast, because that is 1990, we will branch out and never do that potentially.
Hang on. Are we doing 1990s? Did I just hear?
No. We might
If we
if we ever did.
That's Rusted Junk 2.0.
Ooh. Well, as somebody who was only 14 when the 80s ended, I would quite be up for a 90s podcast. I'm on slightly more firmer ground there, really. But
Well, if we get listeners who branch out, I don't know. Who knows where it's going to go? But we're designing a website so we can get some more traction there. So I'll share that with you when it's all finished and done. As I will everybody else. I'll tell you when the website's gone live. Anyway, Spinal
you
Tap.
can contact us.
Oh yeah, go on then. Yes, go for it.
Yeah. I've resurrected the email that I made like when we originally started and then
Yes.
completely forgot we'd got an email. It's rustedjpod@gmail.com.
Yeah, and everyone that listens to this, just so that we know that, people just show a bit of love. Just send us a message. Send us a recommendation. Next, here's your challenge then. Send us a recommendation on what you'd like to see on season 6 sequels. That's it. Anything goes. You can even have Back to the Future 2. And I apologize because I know that I did say some films were off limits. Nothing's off limits there because I think a lot of things are sort of forgotten. So yeah, you can have Back to the Future 2. And Joe, I'm really sorry that you couldn't have Top Gun, but you did have Full Metal Jacket, which was very good. But yeah. So next time we meet, we will be talking about all things spinally tapping. And I look forward to it. So yeah. Joe, do you want to say where everyone can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at WDWNT, which is Walt Disney World News Today. And I have a podcast called Nerd Alert. And we come out weekly and we're usually on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And
it's very good. It's very, very good.
Oh, thank you.
But does he have an email address? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it's Joe at WDWNT.com. If you want
There
to
you
email me and
There you
you have any suggestions that you'd like us to talk about something Marvel, Star Wars, DC related, or Disney or Pixar related, just let me know.
Excellent. Right. Well, I'll be the first to say thanks for listening. We love you all. Goodbye.
Farewell, dear listeners.
I thought I was going to go, so long, farewell.
There's enough of us now. We can actually do it.
I might wear lederhosen next time if that's gonna. I don't know if that'll impact
Not
or
that kind
boost,
of podcast. so-
boost our viewing figures. But yeah, lederhosen.
Right.
Does anyone else want to say goodbye? Should I just end it
see
here?
ya.
Click, click.
It's me. Doodle
Right.
pip.
Okay.